Hey y'all, it's the Queen. So if you want to learn how to achieve this smoky fall glam look, just go ahead and keep on watching. So let's get right into it. I'm going to start off by cleaning her face off with some original Witch Hazel Pore Perfecting Toner. This is Dickinson's, and the toner basically just clears off any excess dirt or makeup that she already had on her face. Now I'm going in with my primer. I use Milk of Magnesium, and I'm just going to do the main points of her face where she's going to get the moist oil at. It's going to be her forehead, her chin, under her eyes, and the bridge of her nose. And I'm going to make sure I leave that on there until it is dry completely. When it's completely dry, it will be white like so. Now I'm going to just be priming her eyes for the eyeshadow. I'm using the shade Rumor 6 in the P. Louise base. So P. Louise is a very great brand. If you guys haven't tried them out, I definitely recommend them. I've been using them for about a year now. I'm going to be raising her eyebrows so that I can clearly see and make a straight line, because any area that you make, like if it's crooked, as soon as you let go of the eye, it's going to show and your eyebrow is not going to be as sharp as you want it to be. So make sure you're just lifting the eye up so you can use all the space that you have. I'm going to do the same thing to both eyes, and then once you're done, you should have a very happy client. Now I'm going to be going in with a flat foundation brush, and I'm going to just be pressing that concealer into her eye so that it can be blended out completely. Now I'm going to begin going in with my favorite eyeshadow palette. My current favorite is the Warrior by Juvia's Place, and I'm going in the shade Kano, and I'm just putting that directly under her eyebrow so that her eyeshadow can look as natural as possible. So whenever you're doing eyeshadow, I learned this kind of, I would say, the hard way. You should never have the eyeshadow come all the way to the top where her eyebrow is. There should always be a natural shade in between whatever color you're doing your eyeshadow and the actual eyebrow, so that there can be a clear distinction between the two and they don't blend in together. Now that I've put in the shade that is close to my client's natural skin tone directly under the eyebrows, I'm going to go in with my shadow. So I'm going in with the same Juvia's Place Warriors palette. I'm using the shade Mino, and I'm just adding that to the back of her eyebrow. So now this is where you guys have to just pay the most attention. As you can see right here, if you look directly, I'm basically putting the shadow in the shape of a crease. So I'm not putting it all over the place, and I'm definitely not going into the place where I already put the natural brown shadow that matches her shade. And I'm starting from the back, and I'm working my way to the front, and I'm working my way from the bottom to the top. So this way you create kind of an ombre effect, and nothing ever looks so blotchy. Like, I don't want to ever look at an eyeshadow and see, okay, this is brown right here, and this is like a lighter brown, and this is the darker brown, and I can see exactly where she put each shade. Everything needs to blend together, kind of like an ombre effect. Now I'm going to be going in with my 39L Hit the Lights Morphe palette. I'm going in with the shade, don't know, it doesn't have a name on here, so I'm just going in with the glitter black that they have here on the Hit the Lights palette, and I'm just putting that into the corner of her eye. So I'm basically starting from the bottom and I'm working my way up so that there can be a ombre effect. I'm not, just putting it anywhere. I'm not putting it all over the place. I'm making sure that you can clearly still see the distinction between the natural brown that she had at the top, that's right under her eyebrow, then the darker brown shade that I used, and then I'm just going in with the black. So like, you can really not see that I used two different shades, but you would have been able to tell the difference if I only used the black. Like, it would have just looked so much more harsher. So it's good to use ombre shades or blender shades. I don't know what word I'm trying to look for. Like, basically a shade in between the colors that you're using so that everything looks more natural. Now I'm just going in with some clear tape. I'm putting that at the end of her eyeshadow, and that's just going to help me to make the eyeshadow more sharp and to also help with the wing liner that I'm going to create. Now I'm going to be going in with another one of my favorite palettes. It's going to be the 3502 Second Nature palette from Morphe, and I'm going in with the shade Ablaze. So my client wanted kind of a orange shade in between so that it can pop a little more. So I just went back in and I put that shade in between the dark brown that I had on the bottom and then the lighter brown on the top. So notice I'm not completely going right under the eyebrow. I'm not completely going in right where the shadow is. I'm literally going right in between and I'm blending in. And it's okay if you go over something a little too much, because you can always just go back in with the same shade that you used before. So I could have went back in with the lighter brown shade that I used for the top of the eyebrows, like so, and just blending out everything to make sure everything still looks neat. Okay, now I'm going to be creating my wing liner. So I'm using Inglot, their gel liner in the shade 77. That's basically their black. And so this is how I perfected my liner. I basically just used tape. So the tape is literally your best friend. You're going to just start in the back and you're going to mark exactly where the tape is. You're basically making a line right on top of the tape. It's okay if the liner gets on the tape, because once you remove the tape, it's not going to be there on her skin, as you can see. And so I'm just going in, I'm using the tape to define my liner, and then I'm just going to go all the way to the front of her eye to make sure that she has the full liner look, and I'm just going to do that on both sides. Okay, now I'm going to be going over the gel liner that I just created with some glitter glue. The glitter glue that I'm using is one that I have not yet released. Just go ahead and stay tuned for that. The glitter that I'm also using is one that is going to be from my own brand. But you can honestly just use any glitter glue of your preference for now, and any glitter as well. So I'm just going to be doing that on both sides. Now I'm going to just be cleaning her eyelashes out. So I'm using mascara to just remove any glitter that fell onto her eyelashes. And then if I was using a colored eyeshadow that wasn't black, that color would have been on her lashes. So this part is just to basically remove that. So when you put the lashes onto her eyes, you don't see any of that color on there. So my client is a little dramatic, as y'all can see. So now I'm just going to be removing that tape. And as y'all can see, the eyeshadow is very sharp. And that is the desired look that we want. We want everything to be sharp. We're all about precision, okay, guys? We want everything to look amazing, like 5 stars. Now I'm going in with a makeup wipe. You can use literally any kind of makeup wipe and just remove any eyeshadow that fell onto the bottom of her eye over the primer. This is why it's very important to do the eyeshadow first before you do any of the rest of the face, because you could have beat your face to perfection and then you forgot to do your eyeshadow, and now you want to add eyeshadow and you got hot pink all on your face, and then it just looks crazy. So this ensures that everything looks perfect. Okay, yeah, now that we got the hardest part out of the way, honestly, in my opinion, I think the eyes is the hardest thing because it just takes the longest. Like, everything else is always the same for everybody's face. So now we're going in with our foundation. We're using Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless in the shade Mocha, which is 360. And we're going to be using a beauty blender. So make sure your beauty blender is wet. So this ensures that everything goes on there seamlessly and everything is clear. As y'all can see, her skin is literally matching the foundation perfectly. Now that I've blended out my foundation, I'm going to go in with my concealer. I'm using Tarte Shape Tape in the shade Deep. And I'm going to do her chin, over her mouth, the bridge of her nose, and under her eye. Basically everywhere that I put the primer that I originally used. Okay, so now I'm going to complete her eyebrows. So with the same shade of concealer, I'm going to shape out her eyebrows. So now you have to be basically as still as possible and make that line as straight as you can so that her eyebrow can be sharp, you guys. So take your time. There is literally no rush. Your client is going to want her eyebrows to be perfect. The eyebrows literally make or break a face. So just go ahead and just take your time, make it as sharp as possible. Some people like to lay the brush flat. Some people like to do it the way I'm doing it. Just whichever way is easier for you. Alright, now I'm going to be going in with a very small sponge. I'm going to wet that one as well. And I'm just going to blend for your life. When I say blend for your life, you're literally blending until you do not see the concealer exactly where you put it. The concealer needs to spread out. You're not going to just stay in that same spot. So you're pushing into the skin as much as possible. And you just make sure you ask your client throughout, am I going too hard? Like, is this hurting you? And most of the time she's going to say no, because it's not like I'm, literally pounding it into her face. You're just beating, you guys. Just beat. Okay, this I'd say is the hardest thing to do on other people's face, because most people don't really like looking up for long periods of time. So just make sure you, I don't know how to say it, just make sure the client is as comfortable as possible, because this is very important. You have to blend out under the eye because that's where people look Like, that's literally the first thing people are going to see when they see the face. So if it's not blended out all the way, you're going to definitely be able to tell. Like, you can see the rest of the areas blend out completely in comparison to the part that I'm doing now. If I were to just leave it like this, she would definitely get a lot of flashback and her face would not be beat. Alright, now I'm going to go in with my setting powder. So I'm going to be using Laura Mercier, their translucent medium deep powder. This is the best setting powder I've ever used. If you don't want to spend this much money, you know, if you're just getting started, you can definitely use the banana powder from Amazon. I think it's only like $10-13. That's the powder I originally started with. That one's pretty good as well, but if you want the best, I definitely recommend to get the Laura Mercier. And I'm going to just use a foundation brush and I'm pressing the powder into the skin. So a lot of people think that this part, like, I see a lot of people always posting pictures and there's literally like a bunch of powder. Like, you can see all the powder on their face. That is not how it's supposed to be, and that's why a lot of people end up getting flashback. You're supposed to press the powder into the skin as much as possible so that it's barely seen. So I'm pushing the powder in with my brush and I'm just making sure I cover every place that I put the foundation or concealer at. Basically, everywhere you put a liquid, you have to cover it with a powder so that it can last longer and you do not sweat as much. Alright, now I'm going to be contouring her face. I'm going in with the Juvia's Place foundation sticks, and this is going to be the color Benin, and I'm just going to trace outside of where I put the highlight. So I put the highlight right in the middle of her chin. So now I'm just putting on the outsides. My lines are a little crooked because I was not looking correctly, but I'm going to blend that out so you're not going to see it. But basically try to be as precise as possible. And now I'm doing the bridge of her nose. So the nose is very important, you guys. So I'm starting from the very top of her eyebrow and I'm going all the way down so that there is no distinction of where everything is. Like, everything always needs to look blended out and precise. That's the goal. Our goal is to look like we don't have any makeup on. So if we're going to wear it, we're going to make sure that it looks like as natural as possible. Okay, now I'm going to be contouring her cheeks. I'm basically putting the contour, the same shade, right under where I put the highlight and over her forehead. So I'm going around, like I said earlier, around everywhere that I highlighted. The goal of contouring is to warm the face back up because highlight is where you're brightening the face up. When you just leave it with your highlight without contouring, you end up just looking very bright and it looks like you don't have on the right shade of foundation because your skin tone will look uneven. So contouring is very, very important. This took me a long time to kind of perfect because I promise y'all, it literally just takes practice, but it is a little hard at first. It just takes practice. Okay, now I'm going to be going in with my MAC Mineralized Skin Finish Natural Powder in the shade Dark Deepest. You guys, this powder is literally the best powder for contouring because it's so natural. Like, you're going to go over everywhere that you just put down that liquid contour. Remember, everywhere you put a liquid, you have to put a powder over it in order for it to last. So now I'm going over those same areas and I'm just pushing that in and I'm going from top to bottom. So I'm going towards where I put the highlight, but not all the way down so that you can't really cover it. So again, how about the ombre effect? Like, everything has to look as natural as possible. And make sure you just take your time as well. Okay, and now we're going to talk about the second most important part of the face. So the first is going to be definitely the eyebrows, and now the contouring of the nose. We already placed down the foundation, and we know exactly, where everything's going and how we want to do it. So the key to blending this out is to use a flat brush and to literally go down and away. We're not pushing towards the highlight because then it's going to look crooked. The line is not going to be straight, and then your client is going to have a crooked nose, and that's not our desired look. So we're pushing the concealer in first, and we're blending it out, and then we're going over it with the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish Powder, you guys. And honestly, just take your time to make sure you do not push into where the highlight already is because we do not want a crooked nose, you guys. Our nose needs to be snatched, okay? Okay, now we're going to have our client smile, and we're going in with our blush. We're going to place the blush right where the highest point of the cheekbone is when she is smiling. So the blush we're using today is MAC in the color Frankie Scarlet. This is my favorite go-to blush, you guys. I've had this blush for a while now, and this is definitely the one that I always choose because it's just so natural. Like, it looks really red when you first pick it up, but you just have to know how to apply it. When you put on too much, or if you feel you put on too much, you always just go back over with the powder that you use, the same skin finished MAC powder, to make sure everything looks smooth, you guys. Okay, so I always go back in with my blush again after I put the powder on, and I kind of play back and forth between both of them until I feel like I've achieved like the most natural look where you can see the blush but not too much. Like I want it to be very subtle because a lot of people think that like darker skinned women don't really wear blush, I would say, because before I started doing makeup I used to think like, what do you mean blush? Like I'm not gonna put that huge red stuff on my cheeks. Like it didn't make sense to me until I learned how to naturally use it. Okay, I'm going in with my highlight now. So you guys seen earlier, I just went right over her lip. I did the tip of her nose and then her cheeks right over where the blush is. And the highlight that I'm using is also from Juvia's Place, and this is going to be the Royalty 2 Loose Highlight. I prefer to use loose highlighter over the ones that are like in the palettes because I just feel like it's easier to blend out and place directly where you want it to be. I don't know, like it just makes sense to me. Okay, so now I'm using the same powder brush and I'm blending out all of the highlight. Like everything that you put on somebody's face, and even if you're looking to just do your own makeup, you need to blend it out. There's no reason why somebody should look at your face and see like you have packed highlight right on top of your cheek. That does not look good. Like I promise y'all, it's okay for your highlight to be subtle. And it's okay to put on a little more as well, but it shouldn't be like literally a patch of highlight on your cheek, y'all. Okay, now I'm going to fill her eyebrows in. I am using, of course, my favorite palette. This is going to be the Warriors palette by Juvia's Place, and I'm going in with that same dark brown shade that we used in the crease of the eyeshadow. So I'm literally, like, you have to be as precise as possible because this shade, like all of Juvia's Place eyeshadows are very pigmented, so you can see everything clearly. So this is the perfect shade to fill the eyebrows in with. You can see the difference between the one that's not filled in on the left and the one that is on the right. Like it literally looks raw. And shout out to the Luxury Club on Instagram because she's the one that put me onto this palette. She had an Instagram live one day and like she was just talking about the palette so highly, so I went and got it and now I'm in love. So y'all should definitely go out and get this palette. Okay, now I'm going to go into her waterline with our gel black liner. Again, this is Inglot color 77. This is the best eyeliner I've used. And so basically just be as careful as possible when you're doing someone else's face because a lot of people's eyes do get watery. A lot of people do have sensitive eyes. So just have cotton swabs ready to go ahead and just remove any water or tears so that the rest of the face does not mess up. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and line her lips, you guys, with this same dark shade that I used for her eyebrows and her eyeshadow. I know y'all going to get tired of me talking about this palette, but I'm telling y'all, it is literally the bomb. Like, thebomb.com, thebomb.net, like, the whole bomb. Okay, now I'm going to be adding some glitter glue and glitter right on the inner corner of her eye. Literally, just one tap of my smallest brush right there, and I'm going to be using a silver glitter that is also not yet to be released, but you guys, like I said, can use any glue and glitter to achieve this look. Okay, now I'm going into her lips with a clear lip gloss. This is Broadway Vita Lip Coconut Oil Lip Gloss, and I'm just putting that all over her lip. I'm tracing out where I put the brown lip liner, and I'm just working my way up. Okay, now I have my Color Pop lip gloss in the shade Roundabout, and I'm literally putting that in only right in the middle of her lips, and I'm having my client just push that together slightly so it's not everywhere. So again, I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I know I keep saying ombre, but literally everything is ombre. Everything has to be blended. Everything has to look smooth. Like I don't ever want anything to look so clear cut. It's all about the blends, all right? Okay, now I'm going to be using my Urban Decay All Nighter Makeup Setting Spray, and this is it, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And comment anything else y'all want to see.